Dispositive analysis represents a significant evolution in the study of language and its broader complications, building upon the historical trajectory of linguistic inquiry that has transitioned from smaller units like phonology and morphology to larger constructs such as discourse. This analytical framework, rooted in the works of Michael Foucault, allows researchers to explore complex interactions within language and society, thereby providing a more comprehensive understanding of how knowledge is constructed and disseminated. For the purpose of this report, we will focus on the following targets. We have defining dispositive, differentiating dispositive and discourse analysis, and we will also explore on the contributions of contemporary scholars who lighten these aspects of dispositive analysis, ultimately proposing a methodological approach that integrates reflections on heterogeneity, semiology, and power. So, by definition, dispositive analysis is a unit of analysis broader than discourse. So, dispositive analysis encompasses a wider scope than traditional discourse analysis by integrating various elements such as institutional practices, physical structures, and regulatory frameworks. This broader perspective allows for a more comprehensive understanding of how power and knowledge interact within social contexts. Another definition is it is a system set up for specific purposes. A dispositive is designed to serve particular functions within society, acting as an organized mechanism that facilitates certain outcomes or behaviors. It embodies the strategies and structures that govern how knowledge and power are exercised in specific contexts. So, one specific example is an alarm system, which you install in the place where you want to catch the robbers or the intruders. Attached in it is a control panel where only the owner knows how to arm or disarm it. Okay, the third definition is it focuses on heterogeneous elements like discourses, institutions, architecture, laws, etc. The concept of the dispositive emphasizes the diversity of components involved, including discursive practices, institutional frameworks, architectural designs, and legal regulations. So, going back to the example of an alarm system, what makes it heterogeneous is it does not only include the hardware like plastics and electronics, but also the owner's knowledge of the code. Another definition, it examines the connections between elements. So, one important aspect of Foucault's definition of the dispositive is the importance of the connections between the elements. To illustrate this with the everyday example of the alarm system, if the alarm is not connected to the sensors, the system will not work. Here, Foucault points out the potential interchangeability of the elements, meaning the code and the owner chooses from the alarm may well be the same code he uses in his bank accounts. And the last definition, it considers the urgency or need that the dispositive addresses. A key aspect of dispositive analysis is its focus on the specific needs or urgencies that prompt the formation of a dispositive. Foucault says that a dispositive must respond to an urgency, which can be translated as an emergency or a need. This also applies to the alarm system, which has a highly strategic function of protecting a private property in a capitalist economy. that places such high value on private ownership to the extent that a need to protect is created. Now, let's try to differentiate dispositive and discourse analysis. So, a discourse primarily concentrates on language and the ways in which statements, texts, or archives shape meaning and communication. It analyzes how language constructs social realities through the articulation of ideas and the exchange of information. In contrast, a dispositive analysis extends beyond the realm of language to incorporate non linguistic elements such as institutions, laws, and physical environment. So, a crucial distinction is that dispositive analysis introduces the element of power, examining how various components interact to influence behaviors, establish norms, and regulate societal practices. Now, let's talk about heterogeneity, semiology, and power. Okay, so heterogeneity, it is the diverse and varied elements that comprise a dispositive, including discourses, institution, practices, and physical objects. It highlights how multiple resources contribute to the construction of knowledge and social practices. Semiology, on the other hand, involves analyzing how meanings are constructed through signs, which include text, actions, and objects. It helps to understand the relationship between signifiers, or in the forms of signs, and signifieds, or the concept they represent. And power is a network of relationship that shapes knowledge production and social practices. It influences how knowledge is created, disseminated, and accepted within society. Okay, so let's talk heterogeneity in the dispositive first. So we have Paul Michael Foucault, if I may pronounce it right. He is a French historian of ideas and philosopher who was also an author, a literary critic, a political activist, and a teacher. Foucault's theories primarily address the relationship between power versus knowledge and liberty, and he analyzed how they are used as a form of social control through multiple institutions. So, according to him, the elements of a dispositive includes discourses, institutions, architectural structures, prescriptive decisions, laws, administrative measures, scientific statements, philosophical, moral, and philanthropic propositions. So, according to him, the elements of a dispositive includes words and those that are not expressed in words. Okay. How about discursive and non-discursive? So, according to Foucault, a dispositive analysis should comprise of not only the language, spoken or written words, text, conversations, and any form of expression that conveys meaning through language, but also it includes the non language elements such as physical objects and structures like buildings, designs, and visual art. For example, by just looking at the layout of a city or the architecture of a museum, we can communicate messages and influence people's experiences without using words. These elements play a crucial role in shaping how we perceive and interact with our environment. Now let's go to operationalizing dispositive analysis via heterogeneity. So we have here a name, Siegfried Jaeger, a prominent German linguist and discourse researcher known for his contributions to critical discourse analysis. So Jagger authored the foundational text on critical discourse analysis and was instrumental in developing methodologies that integrate linguistic analysis with social theory. His work often drew on the theories of Michael Foucault, emphasizing the relationship between language, power, and social structures. Jagger takes on board the Foucault's distinction between the linguistic and the other elements of the dispositive that Foucault mentions and develops a three-way breakdown of the heterogeneity of the dispositive. So according to this, the elements of the dispositive can be discursive practices, actions, and physical objects. So discursive practices is simply discursive analysis. Or discursive practices, he says, are where knowledge is primarily carried. Another one is action or non-discursive practices. So while he accounts actions as non-discursive practices, he specifies that they nevertheless transport knowledge because knowledge is a prerequisite for undertaking the action in the first place, and they are accompanied by knowledge. So here, Jagger points out that even a simple action like going to the baker's to buy bread rolls requires a great deal of social knowledge on the part of the actor, such as the rules of the road, social conventions such as the dress and the use of money, local topographical information concerning the whereabouts of the bakers. The third one is physical objects. So physical objects serve as the materialization or concretization of discourse and knowledge, meaning they embody and represent ideas in a tangible form. So these objects do not possess inherent meaning on their own. Instead, their significance is derived from how individuals interpret and read of their context. For example, a building will only remain a pile of bricks until someone describes or call it a building. Another example is a dress will only be a piece of cloth until someone calls it dress. Now, how do we discover these meanings or terms? Jagger then suggests turning to a third party. This party are the experts, such as the engineers and the architects, because they are the ones who knows how to build these buildings. Other third party we can consider are the statistics, maps, and related books because they help uncover the meanings and implications associated with these physical objects, revealing how they contribute to our understanding of knowledge and discourse. Now let's talk about semiology in the dispositive analysis. Semiology is the study of signs and their meanings within a dispositive. It involves analyzing how texts, actions, and objects function as signifiers, example as forms, and the signifieds or the meanings attributed to them in discourse. Okay, we have here a figure which shows a semiological analysis grid which divides discourse into the signifier and the signified, in which together make up the sign or symbol itself. So how does this apply to the dispositive? Again, keeping things simple for the time being, the three categories of texts, actions, and objects become three categories of signifiers and the meanings attributed in discourse. For example, in the signifier, we have the object glass as an aspect of building which was regularly attributed the meaning of openness for the signified. Combined together to create the meaning, A glass, which means openness, could give us an idea of open democracy or trust, whereas the use of stone was frequently characterized as representing remoteness or isolation. So, in semiological terms, then, the building material, either glass or stone, is the signifier. The meaning attributed to it, like open democracy or trust, or remote non democracy or isolation, is the signified. In straight semiological terms, the two together make up the sign. Okay, lastly is we have the power and dispositive analysis. So we have here a name in the person of Jürgen Link. He is a distinguished German literary scholar and discourse theorist. He is known for developing the concept of normalism, which examines how societal norms are produced and regulated through discourse. His work draws on Michael Foucault's ideas about discourse as a means of organizing social practices and power relations. So, according to Jurgen Link, there are two fields of power. We have objective and subjective. So, the objective power emphasizes external influences on behavior, such as seen in the passive film goer, while the subjective power field highlights the active control and decision making processes of those in the positions of authority or represented by the filmmaker. Together, these fields illustrate different dimensions of power dynamics in media and communication. So, for example, let's talk about a judge. He can be in a subjective power field while fulfilling his duty in the court, but he could shift to an objective power or objective power field when he is taking a driving test. This example illustrates how a judge wields subjective power within the courtroom, making decisions based on legal expertise and authority. However, when taking a driving test, the same judge enters an objective power field where they are evaluated based on standardized criteria, demonstrating how their position and influence can change based on context. Here, power does not mean a class system or coming from those at the top. This statement emphasizes that power is not solely held by those in high social or economic positions. Instead, power can emerge from various levels within society, including grassroots movements or community organizations that challenge traditional hierarchies. Next, power may change from one dispositive to the next. This concept indicates that power is not static. It can shift depending on the context or framework being analyzed. For example, an individual's authority in one setting may not translate to another, illustrating the fluidity of power dynamics. So, the work of a judge, as I have mentioned earlier, can be an example for this, where his power changes from subjective to objective. Subjective when he is in the courtroom, while it becomes objective when he is taking a driving test. Another is power must be combined with knowledge to work properly. This idea means that for power to be effective, it needs to be informed by knowledge and understanding. Knowledge enhances the ability to wield power responsibly and effectively, ensuring that decisions made by those in authority are grounded in informed reasoning rather than arbitrary actions. So, in conclusion, dispositive analysis provides a broad framework that incorporates both linguistic and non linguistic elements, allowing researchers to analyze complex social phenomena in a more integrated manner. So, by emphasizing the relationship between discourse and power, it helps uncover the underlying structures that shape societal norms and practices, offering insights into how power is exercised and resisted. So, by revealing the mechanisms of power embedded within discourse, it provides critical insights that can inform social change initiatives and enhance awareness of social inequality.